My boss had a new boyfriend called Eugene Larson. The first day he came to the office, he put on a great show of exerting his dominance. He deleted my number from my boss's phone right in front of me. Eugene waved his phone in front of me while playing innocently. You can talk to me about anything you need to communicate to Tina, Mr. Sanders. I'll help you pass the message to her. I don't have much sense of security, so please don't mind this. It's to avoid any misunderstanding between us. I was hoping my boss, Tina Kayden, would be able to say something fair on my behalf, but all she did was stare at Eugene approvingly and adoringly throughout the conversation. She turned to me and said, "This is a pretty good plan, Mr. Sanders. Do take good care of Eugene from now on." As there was no way for me to reject her, I was forced to add Eugene's contact to my phone. However, the moment he had my number, he flooded my phone with messages. "Mr. Sanders, is the client you're meeting tomorrow with the surname Charleston a man or a woman? Where are you having the meeting tomorrow? Wear something casual tomorrow. It would be best if you avoid washing your face and hair. Otherwise, I would think you're trying to seduce my wife. I believe your relationship with Tina is innocent. You're not allowed to betray me because I'm treating you like my buddy. By the way, you have an extra duty from now on. You need to remind Tina every 30 minutes to send me a message telling me that she loves me." As I read these ridiculous messages, I laughed in anger. I put my phone on silent mode and flung it to the side before going to bed. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls on my phone. My heart skipped a beat as I quickly returned the call. I thought there was an emergency. When my call got through, Eugene Larson's shrill voice exploded into my ear. "Andrew Sanders, what were you doing last night? Why didn't you pick up my call? Were you doing something sneaky? Where did you sleep last night? Turn on your location. I'm checking where you are right now. I'm warning you. If I find out you tried to seduce Tina behind my back, I'll tear you apart." It rendered me speechless to listen to his hysterical accusations. I was the general manager of the company, not his or Tina Kayden's personal secretary. I tried my best to hold in my temper as I replied coldly, "Mr. Larson, I'm not obligated to report my personal schedule and life to you. You can go to Miss Kayden for any inquiries you may have. Whatever I do after work is considered my personal time. It's my freedom to be where I want. You have no right to interfere." Eugene scoffed. He said threateningly, "You must be guilty of something if you refuse to tell me where you are. I'll tell my wife to fire you." "Mr. Larson," I could not help retorting, "you keep referring to Miss Kayden as your wife. May I know if both of you are officially married? I'm willing to accept punishment if I did anything wrong at work, but if you're using the excuse of my feeling guilty to fire me, please forgive me when I say that it would be unacceptable." However, Eugene refused to listen to what I had to say. He continued stubbornly, "Tell me right now, what were you doing when you refused to pick up my call?" I was not in the mood to argue with him, so I replied impatiently, "It was nighttime, of course I was sleeping. What else would I be doing? Sleeping." His tone suddenly turned indignant. He sounded like he finally had something on me. "Were you sleeping alone? Where do you live? You didn't secretly move near where Tina stays, did you? I don't care what you say, just send me your location right now, or I swear I won't let you off." There was nothing I could do to stop his harassment, so I sent him my location after hanging up. He stopped making a fuss right after that. Eugene sent me another message in less than 2 minutes. This time his tone softened with me. "I'm so sorry, bro. I was being too sensitive. Tina is such an extraordinary woman, and I'm always fearful that someone would snatch her away from me. Don't be mad at me, all right? Take more photographs of Tina for me later when you have your meeting." I rolled my eyes at how fast the way he changed his tone in his messages. I held back my frustration and quickly cleaned up to rush to the office. Eugene was a university student who Tina had hooked up with. Since Eugene found out she was the boss of her own company, he came running to the office to announce his ownership of her. However, this young man must either be dim-witted or read too many romance novels. He treated every male employee in the company like his love rival. As Tina's university classmate and the general manager who built the company with her, I naturally became enemy number one in his eyes. He guarded me as if I were the greatest threat, and had no idea that my full focus was on making money. I had no interest in starting a romance with anyone. It was 9:30 a.m. Tina and I appeared on time in the meeting room at Kent Charleston's office to go through the details of our meeting notes. We still had 30 minutes until our 10 a.m. appointment when my phone on the table kept ringing. The message notification sounded particularly sharp in the quiet meeting room. Tina glanced at my phone and frowned while berating me like the boss she was. "You need to keep your phone silent during working hours. Do you need me to point that out to you?" I picked up my phone to look. As I had expected, they were all messages from Eugene. "Are you in the meeting room now, bro? Have you met Mr. Charleston? Take a picture for me. I need a full body picture of you too. I have to check if you're dressed appropriately today. You're with Tina, aren't you? Why isn't she replying to my messages? Remind her to check her phone right now. I could feel the veins in my temple throbbing. I took a deep breath and turned to Tina to remind her politely, "Miss Kayden, your boyfriend is trying to reach you." When she heard the word boyfriend, she picked up her phone right away and turned to leave right after glancing at the messages. I was taken aback as she left me alone in the meeting room. Kent was about to arrive at the meeting, and she chose this moment to reply to her messages. 2 minutes after Tina left, Kent and his secretary pushed the door open. He frowned when he saw the empty seat next to mine. "Where's Miss Kayden?" Kent was a traditional man of 50+ and a renowned figure in the industry who was experienced. He emphasized efficiency and was a stickler for the rules. He was extremely unhappy about what he saw. I quickly smiled to smooth the situation and made up an excuse. After that, I took the lead in the conversation and started to talk about how we can work together on the project. After 30 minutes of negotiation, Kent nodded continuously, and things seemed to be moving well. That was when Tina pushed the door open to enter the room. She did not look anxious at all as she slowly took the seat next to mine and asked about the meeting progress. When she found out that the meeting was a success, she was clearly relieved. After that, she brought up details of the contract with Kent, and I took the opportunity to get some water from the pantry. When I got to the pantry, I took out my phone to see over 100 of messages on it. There were dozens of missed calls, and it did not take me much to figure out they were from Eugene. Before I could take a look at them, a call came in. I hung up, and he continued calling. I hung up again, and he still called. After this repeated several times, I knew I could not avoid the messages any longer, and could only pick up the call. The moment the call got through, Eugene roared at me. "Andrew Sanders, how can you ignore my calls again? Are you guilty about something?" I could hardly contain my anger. "I told you before that I was in a meeting, Mr. Larson. This is a contract that involves millions of dollars. Can you handle the consequences if anything happens to this contract?" All Eugene did was scoff and reply indignantly, "Can you handle the consequences if I fought with Tina and it affected her work?" This reply rendered me speechless. I had no idea what he was thinking. The way his brain worked was a complete mystery to me. Before I could say another word, Eugene continued being pushy. "Turn on your camera right now. I want to see where you are and who is with you. Get a 360-degree angle of your surroundings clearly." Frustration filled me to the brim. I clenched my phone and tried to be as patient as possible. "I'm in a meeting, Mr. Larson. Can you stop making a scene? Please contact Miss Kayden if you need anything. I'm just a manager, not a messenger between lovers. Turn on your camera. Turn it on, and I'll believe you. Otherwise, whatever you tell me is a lie." I had nothing to hide, so I turned on my camera and aimed it at the door of the meeting room I had just walked out of. "See that? I told you I was in a me. Arga. Andrew Sanders, you be *starred. Are you trying to have an office affair with Tina? Don't even think about seducing her as long as I'm around." The last of my patience had been exhausted, and I hung up right away. I even deleted him from my contacts and all social media. After this series of actions, I looked at my phone's clean homepage. Even the air suddenly felt fresher than usual. Back inside the meeting room, Tina and Kent were chatting happily. It looked like they were about to move into the next phase of signing the contract. Kent took the contract and said to Tina with a smile, "Plenty of major companies are eyeing this project. Some of their tenders are higher than yours, but we're old friends, and I trust working with old friends, especially Mr. Sanders here. He's quite a talent. He's professional and highly capable. It isn't easy to find a subordinate like him." His high praise did not make me full of myself. It was an acknowledgement of my work capabilities. Tina was clearly relieved, and she started to quickly return compliments to Kent. When Kent was about to sign the contract, a loud bang was heard as the meeting room door was flung open. Kent's secretary was trying to stop Eugene, who had barged in furiously. The secretary was apologetic as she tried to explain, "I'm so sorry, Mr. Charleston. This gentleman claims to be Miss Kayden's boyfriend and is insistent on supervising the meeting." I couldn't stop him. Before she could finish, Eugene pushed the secretary to the side and came running toward me. He raised his hand and slapped me. Slap. The crisp sound echoed loudly in the silent meeting room. Everyone was shocked. I put my hand to my burning cheek and looked coldly at Eugene, whose face was covered in tears, and his eyes were swollen like walnuts. He had been crying all the way here. However, he acted like he had suffered a great grievance, as if the person who was slapped was him. Tina quickly went over to him. She sounded anxious. "What are you doing here, Eugene?" Before Eugene replied, he looked at everyone around judgmentally and turned to look at Kent, who was in the middle of the meeting room. The screen was still displaying our PowerPoint presentation, and the table was covered with documents. Everything pointed to this meeting being a normal business meeting. Eugene realized the trouble he had caused, and he immediately launched into gentle mode. He held Tina's hand with a pitiful look on his face. I send you messages, but you didn't reply them right away. I came over here because I was worried something had happened to you." He looked at me timidly while speaking and insinuated, Mr. Sanders deleted me from his contacts and didn't reply to my messages. He wasn't even particularly nice to me. The more he spoke, the more pitiful he sounded. Eugene's eyes turned red as he repeated the words, I'm sorry, and it wasn't on purpose. I tried my best to suppress my anger. Before I could say anything, Tina suddenly grabbed me by the arm and insisted, You apologized to Eugene. I was stunned. I could not believe my ears. Miss Kayden, I was the one who was slapped for no good reason. So what? Tina frowned. It was ridiculous how indignant she was acting. You knew how sensitive and insecure Eugene can be. Why didn't you reply him in time? This is a reflection of your failure to do your job. I didn't instruct you to delete him from your contacts. Why would you delete him? If Kent was not present, I would have flung the documents in my hand onto both their faces. I tried my best to suppress my anger, and immediately displayed my phone's screen on the big screen. The screen was filled with hundreds of messages from Eugene with ridiculous orders, from checking my location to instructing how I should dress. They also contained requests from him for me to remind Tina to say loving words to him. Eugene turned silent, and he tried to look away. Tina was also stunned by the screen filled with messages. Tell me, Miss Kayden. My voice was cold, but it filled the room clearly. Do you mean to tell me that I should turn my back on millions worth in contract just to cheer up your boyfriend? I paused and followed up with another question. Are you his girlfriend, or am I his girlfriend? Tina's face flushed red, and she started to change the topic. Watch your tone with me, Andrew. How dare you speak to me that way? Do you still want your job? She started to spout nonsense indignantly. The contract might be important, but Eugene is even more important to me. You're a senior member of this company and my right-hand man. Isn't it your job to take care of the company and my personal life? I had no idea what to say. It was pointless to argue with those who were unreasonable. When Eugene saw that Tina's attention was not focused on him, he started to create more drama. He pulled on Tina's hand and said in a sobbing voice, Stop it, Tina. I know Mr. Sanders doesn't like me. He might have been interested in you for a long time and became jealous that we're together, which is why he's been mean to me. He started heading out the door as he spoke in an incredibly sad manner. I'll leave. I know no one cares about what I think if I continue staying here. Eugene cried and ran out of the meeting room after that. Tina did not even look at me, nor did she bother about Kent, who was still present, and ran out after him. The meeting room was left with only me, Kent, and his secretary. Kent looked particularly irritated. He laughed coldly and said sarcastically, I had no idea Miss Kayden thinks her boyfriend is more important than $1 million contract. Is this the sincerity your company is showing me? His attitude had turned cold, and he was no longer showing any friendliness. We need to reevaluate your company's ability. That's all for today. You should leave. A wave of helplessness came over me. I was the only one who understood the feeling, as I had spent multiple sleepless nights modifying the proposal in order to push for this to happen. I ran through the details many times and even sent plenty of gifts customized for Kent in order to build a more personal connection between us. All of my hard work had been destroyed because of a boss who was busy being in love and her boyfriend, who was a complete control freak. A cold look appeared in my eyes. If Tina did not know how to act appropriately, there was no blaming me next. As Kent was about to leave, I quickly called out, Please wait, Mr. Charleston. He turned to look at me questioningly as I took a deep breath to take out another set of documents from my bag. I handed it to him. Please take a look at this contract, Mr. Charleston. You can decide later if you want to continue working together. Kent Charleston looked down at the document I had slid across the mahogany table. It wasn't a contract for Kayden Corporation. It was my resignation letter, dated for that very morning, alongside a proposal for a freelance consultancy partnership. I anticipated this possibility, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. I value our professional relationship, Mr. Charleston. The proposal you see attached is identical to the one we discussed, but the entity executing it would be my own firm, which I intend to register the moment I leave this building. Kent raised an eyebrow, a slow smile spreading across his weathered face. He tapped the paper. You came prepared to fire your own boss? I came prepared to ensure the project succeeds, I corrected. Miss Kayden has made her priorities clear. I'm afraid her company no longer has the stability or the leadership required to handle a venture of this magnitude. However, I do. Kent laughed, a deep, hearty sound. I like you, Sanders. You're ruthless when you need to be. I don't do business with companies. I do business with people. If you can guarantee the team, I'll sign with you. I can guarantee the results, I promised. We shook hands. As I walked out of the conference room, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I hadn't realized I was carrying for years. I didn't head back to the office immediately. Instead, I went to a quiet cafe, ordered a black coffee, and turned my phone back on. It buzzed continuously for 5 minutes. When I finally returned to the office, the atmosphere was suffocating. The employees were whispering, casting nervous glances toward the CEO's office. I didn't go to my desk. I went straight to Tina's office. Inside, Eugene was sitting on Tina's lap, actually sitting on her lap, while she fed him sliced fruit. His eyes were red, but the moment he saw me, a flash of smug triumph crossed his face. You have the nerve to come back? Tina snapped, pushing Eugene slightly aside to stand up. I hope you apologized to Mr. Charleston and begged him to keep the contract. And you need to apologize to Eugene. Now, the contract is handled, I said calm. But not by you. Tina frowned. What does that mean? It means Mr. Charleston has decided to withdraw his cooperation with Kayden Corp due to unprofessional conduct and instability in leadership. What? Tina's face went pale. You were supposed to fix it. That's your job. You're the general manager. Not anymore. I placed my resignation letter on her desk. I quit. Eugene jumped up, pointing a finger at me. You're trying to scare Tina? You think the company can't run without you? You're just an employee. A servant. Tina, let him go. I'll take over his job. I've read a few books on management. It can't be that hard. Tina looked torn. She looked at the resignation letter, then at Eugene's pouty, tear-stained face. Andrew, she said, her voice hardening. If you walk out that door, don't think you can ever come back. I won't give you a reference letter. I'll make sure everyone in the industry knows you're disloyal. You do that, I said, looking at the man-child standing next to her. But I think your reputation is about to take a much bigger hit than mine. Good luck, Tina. You're going to need it. I turned and walked out. Behind me, I heard Eugene say, Don't worry, babe. I'll redesign his office. It needs more pink. Pink brings good energy. The transition wasn't easy, but it was fast. I registered Sanders and Associates the next day. Kent Charleston kept his word. He was my first client. The advance payment from his contract gave me the capital to rent a small office space and hire a few key people. Unsurprisingly, my phone didn't stay quiet. Former colleagues from Kayden Corp began reaching out within a week. It's a nightmare, Andrew, said Sarah, the head of HR, over drinks a month later. Eugene appointed himself Chief Happiness Officer and Vice President. He mandates that we all stop working at 11 a.m. to do couple yoga, with him and Tina if she's in the office. If we don't clap when he enters the room, he deducts our bonuses. Is Tina okay with this? I asked, though I already knew the answer. She's blind, Sarah sighed. He convinced her that you were sabotaging the company culture and that he's purifying the energy. Clients are dropping like flies. We lost the grand proposal last week because Eugene insisted on changing the font to Comic Sans because it looked friendlier. I sipped my drink. If you want out, I have a desk open. Sarah resigned the next day. Over the next 3 months, I poached the best talent from Kayden Corp. The ones who actually did the work. My company was lean, hungry, and efficient. Meanwhile, Eugene's social media was a spectacle. He posted photos of new sports cars, luxury watches, and vacations, all tagged #bosslife, #mywifepays. He was bleeding Tina dry, and she was thanking him for it. 6 months later, the inevitable happened. We crossed paths at a charity gala. I was there with Kent and a few new high-profile clients. My suit was tailored, my demeanor relaxed. I was no longer the stressed, harried manager carrying the weight of an incompetent boss. Tina arrived late, with Eugene clinging to her arm. She looked tired. Her makeup was heavy, trying to hide dark circles, and her dress, while expensive, looked slightly ill-fitting, as if she had lost weight from stress. Eugene, on the other hand, was glittering with jewelry. When they saw me, Eugene whispered something to Tina, and they beelined for us. Andrew, Tina said, her voice tight. I see you managed to land on your feet. Stealing my clients, I assume? Compétence attracte client, Tina. Theft has nothing to do with it, I replied smoothly. Eugene scoffed, adjusting his diamond-encrusted tie. You're just jealous. Tina and I are doing great. We're launching a new project soon. A metaverse for pets. It's going to make millions. I barely suppressed a laugh. Is that so? Yes, Eugene snapped. And you know what? You look terrible. You look overworked. Without Tina's guidance, you're just a headless chicken. Kent Charleston stepped forward, swirling his wine glass. Actually, Miss Kayden, since working with Andrew, my quarterly profits are up 15%. He's the most competent partner I've ever had. It's a shame you couldn't see the diamond in your hand before you threw it away for a piece of colored glass. He glanced pointedly at Eugene. Eugene turned purple. Who are you calling glass? I'm a diamond. Tina, tell him. Tina looked embarrassed. She looked at me, then at the successful people surrounding me. For a fleeting second, the fog in her eyes seemed to clear. Eugene, let's go get a drink, she muttered. No. He insulted me. Make him apologize. Eugene stomped his foot. Actually stomped it. Not here, Tina hissed, dragging him away. As they left, I saw the looks on the faces of the other business owners. They weren't looking at Tina with respect anymore. They were looking at her with pity. The metaverse for pets was the final nail in the coffin. According to Sarah, who still had friends in the old finance department, Eugene had convinced Tina to liquidate the company's emergency reserves to fund this visionary project. He hired his fraternity brothers as consultants. Then, the messages started coming to me. Not from Eugene, but from Tina. Andrew, can we talk? I miss our brainstorming sessions. The company is going through a rough patch. If you come back, I'll give you a raise. I'll even make you a partner. I didn't reply. A week later, she showed up at my office. She looked disheveled. I need help, Andrew, she said, skipping the pleasantries. The bank is calling in the loans. Eugene said he invested the money, but I can't find the paperwork. He says I just need to trust him, but the money is gone. I finished for her. She slumped into the chair opposite my desk. He bought a villa. In his name. He said it was a surprise for our wedding. But we're not even engaged yet. Tina, I said, leaning forward. He is embezzling from you. He has been since day one. The insecurity, the checking my phone, the isolating you from competent staff, it was all a strategy to make you dependent on him so he could rob you blind. She covered her face with her hands. I love him. You love the idea of him. You love that he makes you feel worshipped. But it's an act. And it's an expensive one. What do I do? She whispered. Fire him. Sue him. Salvage what's left of your company. She looked up, eyes teary. Will you come back? Help me rebuild. I looked around my office. My team was laughing in the conference room. My name was on the door. I answered to no one but myself. No, I said gently. I won't. But I can recommend a good lawyer. Tina didn't take my advice immediately. She was too weak. She confronted Eugene, but he cried, threatened self-harm, and gaslit her into believing the villa was an investment for their future children. But the money ran out. 3 months later, I received a frantic call from the police station. It was Tina. She had used her one phone call on me because Eugene wasn't answering. I went down to the station. Tina was sitting in a holding cell, looking utterly broken. What happened? Tax evasion, she croaked. And fraud. The police raided the office this morning. They found evidence of massive funds being diverted to offshore accounts. They think I did it. Where is Eugene? She let out a hollow laugh. He's gone. He didn't come to work today. His phone is disconnected. I sent someone to the villa. It's empty. He sold it last week. I felt a surge of cold anger. Eugene hadn't just been a leech. He was a parasite that killed the host. I can post your bail, I said. But you need to give the police everything. Every text, every email, every bank transfer Eugene ever authorized. He used my passwords, she sobbed. He said it was because we shouldn't have secrets. He did everything under my login. It was a mess. A magnificent, tragic mess. I hired the best forensic accountant in the city. It took weeks, but we found the digital trail. Eugene was sloppy. He thought he was smarter than everyone else, which is usually the downfall of narcissists. He hadn't left the country yet. He was hiding in a luxury resort in the neighboring state, living it up with a new girlfriend, a wealthy widow twice his age. I decided to pay him a visit. Not alone, but with the authorities. We found him by the pool, wearing designer sunglasses, massaging the widow's shoulders. Eugene Larson, I called out. He lowered his sunglasses. When he saw me, he paled. Then he saw the uniformed officers behind me. Andrew. Buddy. He stood up, knocking over a cocktail. What are you doing here? I was just telling Martha here about my old friend. Save it, I said. You're under arrest for embezzlement, corporate fraud, and identity theft. You can't prove anything, he shrieked, his voice hitting that familiar, ear-splitting pitch. Tina did it. She's the boss. I was just her boyfriend. I don't have any security sense, remember? I don't know anything about business. We have the logs, Eugene, I said, holding up a file. We have the footage of you accessing the accounts. We have the real estate agent who sold the villa testifying that you claimed the money was an inheritance. It's over. As the officers cuffed him, he started crying. Not the fake, pretty crying he used on Tina. Ugly, snot-nosed sobbing. Tina. Call Tina. She loves me. She won't let you do this. Babe. Help me. He was dragged away, screaming for a woman whose life he had destroyed. Kayden Corp filed for bankruptcy. The reputation of the company was too tarnished to save. Tina avoided prison time thanks to the evidence we gathered proving Eugene's coercion and fraud, but she lost everything else. Her assets were seized to pay off creditors. She ended up working as an administrative assistant at a small logistics firm. I saw her one last time a year later. I was leaving a coffee shop and she was entering. She looked healthier, though much humbler. She wore simple clothes, no designer labels. Andrew, she said, stopping. Tina. I heard Sanders and Associates just opened a branch in London. Congratulations. Thank you. She hesitated. You were right. About everything. I was stupid. I let a little bit of attention cost me my entire life. You're rebuilding, I said. That's what matters. I am, she nodded. It's hard. But it's honest work. No one is checking my phone every 30 minutes. She managed a weak smile. Did you hear about Eugene? I heard he's not enjoying prison. He writes me letters, she said, a flash of disgust crossing her face, asking me to send him money for the commissary. He says the prison soap is too harsh for his skin. We both laughed. For the first time in years, it was a genuine shared moment. Take care, Tina, I said. You too, Andrew. I walked to my car, where my phone buzzed. It wasn't a harassment message. It wasn't a demand. It was a notification from my assistant. Meeting with Mr. Charleston in 10 minutes. The merger papers are ready. I got into the driver's seat, checked the mirror, and drove off into a future that belonged entirely to me.